Product provided by Nintendo. A jabroni's introduction to Xenoblade Chronicles X. Hello everybody, I am Jmulls of Jmulls Gaming, and I love Xenoblade Chronicles X. I want more people to love Xenoblade Chronicles X. We have Definitive Edition coming out relatively soon, but the thing about Xenoblade X is that it can be an extremely overwhelming game, especially if you're too used to how other Xenoblade games work, because X plays very differently. It has a different flow, a different pace, and just a different focus. So if you're trying to tackle Xenoblade X like it's Xenoblade 1, 2, or 3, you may find yourself being overwhelmed, not knowing what to do or what to focus on. And that's the point of this guide. That's what I want to try and help you with, is just give you a sense of focus when you're playing Xenoblade X. Because Xenoblade X has a focus on side content that Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 just don't have. Now, it's not like those games don't have side content, it's just X really focuses in on that side content. It has a giant open world, and the premise is, if you can see it, you can go there. It was even on the back of the box for the original Xenoblade X. But you can't get there yet. So one of the first things I would like you to focus on is you can do some side content, but try and focus in on the main story at least a little bit when you unlock new parts to it until you get to like chapter 6. Because when chapter 6 is done, I believe it's the end of chapter 6, not the beginning. When you beat that chapter, you unlock the ability to get a Skells license. This is not main story, you have to find it in like the hangar, which can be a little bit out of the way. It's a series of side quests that you have to do, and it can be a bit of a grind, but trust me, just do it, because you want to unlock your Skells. Your Skells is your giant freaking robot. Yeah, it's your Gundam, it's your armored core, you want this thing. You need this thing. Because not only can you pilot it, but you can get other Skells for your other party members to pilot within combat. It makes traversal around the open world far smoother and quicker. It's basically a transformer, so it can also transform into a vehicle which controls like butt cheeks, but it is pretty fast. Now, I can't find a source for this for the life of me, but people keep telling me they made Skells acquisition easier in Definitive Edition. I don't know if that means it's available more early on, or if they just reduced the grind because it was like 8 grindy side quests you had to do for your first Skells. Just like bear that in mind. Generally speaking, I would suggest aiming to get your Skells before really like deep diving into side content. That would be my recommendation. And especially when you're just starting out and you're working your way through the main campaign, the Skells is super powerful. And it'll allow you to fight harder enemies than you ordinarily would be able to at whatever your level is. A Skells is something that essentially changes the entire game. It changes the scale of the world, it changes your own capabilities, and you'll focus a lot of your time just simply on customizing your Skells with whatever colors you want, but also acquiring parts to put on your Skells, because each different part you put onto your Skells gives it a different ability, aka an art that you can use in combat. And there's different types of Skells. Feel free to experiment. The important thing is just to be able to have access to them. And to do that, you have to do quite a bit of the main story. So like set this as like your first big initial goal. But that's not where it ends. You see, after you beat chapter 9, you unlock the ability to get a Skells flying license. What does this do? It lets your Skells freaking fly. That is when the tagline for Xenoblade X, if you can see it, you can go there, really comes into its own. And there's parts of the map you simply wouldn't have access to otherwise without flying. And it's just really dang cool. It's an element of Xenoblade X that I think is one of its strengths. And with the amount of side content Xenoblade X has within it, I personally would hold off on doing the large bulk of that until after I got my Skells flying license in chapter 9. I'm not saying you shouldn't do any side content up to this point, you definitely should. It's just I'm not gonna go for 100% completion on side content until I unlock flying Skells. They are that much of a game changer. You go around the world way faster, it just makes navigation not just quicker and more efficient, but just really dang cool. But there is one piece of side content that I think you should really focus in on even before you get your Skells, and it involves the map of Xenoblade X. You see, on the Wii U, this thing was relegated to the tablet that the Wii U came with, but for Definitive Edition, it's just going to be in the options menu. Well, not the options menu, it's just going to be in one of the menus. The world is broken down into this grid, and on certain grids, like certain sections of the grid, there's like a survey node. It's kind of like a mini Ubisoft tower if you're familiar with the concept in open world games. pretty much as you're navigating the world doing various quests and stuff, if you see one of these nodes, just go grab it. It unlocks visibility on the map, but also you can use these nodes as passive resource generating tools. There's a couple of currencies in Xenoblade X. I'm not entirely sure if they're brought over for Definitive Edition, but in the original Xenoblade X, you had, your regular currency, but also Moranium, and you use these resources to buy various things. But actually getting those resources was a bit of a pain in the balls. But you can passively accrue them while you're just playing the game if you have these certain nodes placed onto the survey nodes on your map. You can find these things just by exploring the world, but this isn't a guide on how to optimize this system, it's just be on the lookout for it. It's a system that can take some getting used to, but when you really start to understand how it works, you can really rack in the resources. Okay, let's talk about classes. Classes in Xenoblade X work differently than they do in Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3. It's a bit of a branching path, and the big defining feature of your class is what weapons it uses. A ranged weapon and a melee weapon. Might find a combination like sniper rifle and javelin, or longsword and assault rifle, or dual swords and dual guns, stuff like that. Each of these different weapon archetypes has its own variety of arts/abilities that you can use in combat. You can really get into the weeds of things if you want to min-max, but I would just say it's Xenoblade, we don't need to take it that seriously. Just focus in on whatever you think is really dang cool and interesting, and instead of spreading the wealth early on, focus on one specific class, like at one endpoint of the tree, and just unlock that and max rank it, because when you do, you unlock the ability to use those weapons on any other class. So if I go all the way down the tree and fully unlock the final class that gives me assault rifle and longsword, if I then go down and try to get Full Metal Jaguar, I'll be able to utilize longsword and assault rifle while I do that. And then when you unlock various other classes, you can start to mix and match these weapon archetypes together for your own unique build. So again, my recommendation, don't overthink this. Just pick whatever you think is really cool and have fun with it. There's obviously going to be a meta, there's obviously going to be a best in slot, but like that stuff won't really matter until you're in way late endgame. So like, my opinion, just don't overthink this. For me, I'm going to be focusing in on assault rifle and longsword because I think longsword's just really dang cool. Yeah, like that's my thought process here. And then I'll probably go Full Metal Jaguar because dual guns is also just really dang cool. Can you tell I'm a bit of an Elma fan? And there's also something that I'm going to be focusing in on a bit more than I did in my original X playthrough that is on this channel, and that is focusing in on playing with a variety of other party members. I believe in Definitive Edition, XP isn't something that is like only accrued by active party members, so I don't think in Definitive Edition we'll have that scenario where there's just like high level followers and also just followers that are like level 5. I don't think we'll have that situation in Definitive Edition, but I do want to gain affinity on various other party members for things like heart-to-hearts or affinity quests. If you're familiar with Xenoblade, you'll know the affinity system. It's back in Xenoblade X. And it's kind of more important than ever, because not only do you have heart-to-hearts, which are just little scenarios where you talk with, your followers and NPCs and stuff like that, but you also have entire quest chains called affinity quests that may or may not require certain levels of affinity with that character. The way it worked in the original game was that you just had to have them in your party, and in Definitive Edition, this is going to be a bit easier than it was in regular X, because if you want to swap your party members out, you can just do it in the options menu, and you may be going, Jmulls, that sounds really basic, what do you mean it's different here? Well, the way it worked in original X was that you would have to remember where these NPCs were in the overworld, namely in the city, New Los Angeles, and then whenever you wanted to use them, you would have to go find them. No, they weren't marked on the freaking map. Well, they kind of were, but it was a little bit complicated. Needless to say, it was a pain in my dick. Now, most of what I've been talking about today isn't like a rigid guideline you should follow to the letter, mostly just like general rules of advice. If you're not feeling a class, just feel free to change and then focus on something else. It's just, ideally speaking, the goal should be to max out a specific branch of the class tree to unlock those weapons so you can go grind other weapon types. I would recommend focusing a bit more on the main story early on to be able to unlock Skells as soon as possible after chapter 6 to 9, but feel free to do a bit of side content up to that point. It's kind of the beauty of Xenoblade X, it allows you to kind of tackle the game the way you want it to. Now, when it actually concerns the combat, I talked about the classes before, but when you first start playing Xenoblade X, unless they really change this with Definitive Edition, you're going to be wondering what the hell you're doing for the first few hours. As you level up your class and unlock more skills, more arts, stuff like that. Because early on, very early on especially, you're going to have like nothing. And it's going to be extremely slow. And you're going to be like, dude, what is this? Like, what am I doing here? Why am I pressing one button every 30 seconds? There has to be more to this. There is, you just have to unlock it. So just keep your head down, enjoy the sights, the sounds, enjoy what's going on, and bear with it until you level up a bit. The combat system itself will feel quite reminiscent to Xenoblade 1 with quite a few changes, but it's in that layout where you have this one giant bar on the bottom of your screen with all your various arts, pretty much the abilities you're going to be using in combat. There's a new mechanic in Definitive Edition that resets your cooldowns, so that should speed things up a bit, but with Xenoblade X, you equip two weapons, a ranged weapon and a melee weapon, and each different weapon has its own arts. Again, you can get hyper nerdy in terms of min-maxing the combat system and the combat loop and all of that, but it's not like required for actually playing the game. There is one thing I would just say to keep in mind as you're playing the game, and that is limb targeting. If you play Monster Hunter, you will be familiar with this idea that you can break various limbs or body parts on a monster in the world, and for some monsters, if you break a specific part, you have a higher chance of getting a specific drop from that monster. Or sometimes it wouldn't even drop unless you break that specific part. So if you come across a quest that has you try to collect a bunch of resources from a specific mob, and they're just not dropping, chances are it's a drop from a limb you have to break first, and then kill the enemy. You just aim at the limb and just attack it, pretty much. Now, I know some people are just wired differently to others in terms of like what they like, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just gonna give you a heads up. Side quests may not matter for the main story, but characters can die in side quests depending upon your choices, and sometimes it's not abundantly obvious. There's plenty of guides out there if you want to do a quick Google search, just for like what choices to make during side quests to keep various characters alive. If I'm not mistaken, it's no one really important, but like characters you meet in side quests, if you want to keep them alive, you may just want to keep your eye out or be quick with a save. That's just something to bear in mind. But yeah, Xenoblade X in a lot of ways is different to the numbered games, and for a good portion of it, it will almost feel like a completely different IP. Xenoblade 1, 2, and 3 have far more focus and an active emphasis on the storytelling and the characterization than they do on exploring the world and side content. That stuff is there in the numbered games, but it's the focal point and is the focus here in Xenoblade X compared to the story and the characterization. The game still has those elements, and I think they're pretty good, but the focus of the game is clearly on exploring the world and the side content and fleshing all that stuff out. Now, from the sounds of it, there's quite a few changes they made to X when it comes to Definitive Edition. I am not informed on all of those changes, but I kind of talked about this earlier in the video, party swap. In the original Xenoblade X, if you wanted to swap out your party members, you would have to find the party member you wanted to bring into your main party. You had to find them in the world. Mainly just New Los Angeles, but you had to like find out where they were. Every character had kind of their own spot. And if you looked at the mini-map, I call it mini-map, if you just looked at the map on the Wii U tablet, which was, yeah, that was a thing, and you zoomed in on the individual, like, hexagon and you tapped it, it would then tell you, hey, this guy hangs out here. You would then have to go to that spot, talk to him, and recruit him into your party. In Definitive Edition, like, this is one example of one of the changes they've made. You can just go into the main menu, swap them out. It's that easy. There's a lot to Xenoblade X, and I imagine there's going to be a lot when it comes to the Definitive Edition of Xenoblade X. And it's easy to get overwhelmed. My suggestion would be to set out your own personal goal. For me, early on, that's going to be put down my survey nodes around the map, progress the story to unlock my Skell, and that's going to be like my main focus point. All while leveling up my class to unlock more abilities and to unlock, well, more classes. In games that give you a lot of content to really sink your teeth into, into, and Xenoblade X has a lot of content in it. It can be easy to be overwhelmed, and some people can find that off-putting. My suggestion, like I just talked about, set out a personal goal for yourself. What do you want to achieve? Do you want to progress the main story? Okay, have that be a personal goal. Do you want to go get your Skell? Have that be a personal goal. Then what do you want to do with the Skell? Do you want to explore the world? Go and do that. Do you want to do some side quests? Go do that. Pick and choose. Don't feel as if you have to like mainline one thing and then just like only do that till it's complete, then move on to the next thing. Sample, move around, do a bit of everything if you want. You find something you really like, double down on that, why not? Take your time, explore the world, it's beautiful, it's grandiose, it's epic in scale, and Xenoblade X is just a really fun time. So just have fun with it. That's my suggestion. So yeah, I hope this video helped anyone, and if it did, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your opinions, hear your perspectives on Xenoblade Chronicles X, especially as you start to dive into it. Because by the time this video comes out, I believe the game's already out, so have fun with it! Stay safe, have a great day, go play some video games. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again!